Hello everyone!
Hello!
I'm Tony.
And I'm Tally.
And we are the Lazy Book Lovers. This is a podcast for book lovers who procrastinate about reading and have never-ending TBR piles. And today's episode is our reading update.
Books we've actually read.
Books we've actually read. We did some actual reading for, I think this is our January and February.
Yeah. So it's my January, because February I've literally been ill and not read anything at all this month. Basically.
Yeah, to be fair, February's barely existed for me. I sort of had this moment yesterday where I realised what the date was and I had a little bit of a crisis.
When there was all this Valentine's Day stuff going up, I was like, no, that's not till mid-February. And I was like,
this is ages away. I was really procrastinating, obviously, things I had to buy. And then I was like, oh shit, it's literally tomorrow.
What's happening?
Time isn't real, time is a construct.
So my story graph is saying, good job, you're on track with the amount of books, but my pages go. 3,000 pages you're behind, and I'm like, yeah, cheers.
It's telling me I'm 8 books behind, and I was like, I read so many books, why are you being like this?
So why are you being so
I
dramatic?
think maybe I need to take the goal down or something.
Just leave it.
I don't like it.
It's upsetting me.
It's upsetting my perfectionist needs of pleasing an app. I don't know.
Yeah, so rather than pushing
I made a
you to
goal.
read more,
I made a goal and I'm failing.
Oh no, I've just spilled my water.
It's okay, it's just water.
It's on your bed.
It's just water though.
Oh gosh, save the books.
Okay. Yeah, save your books, but it's just water.
Oh, okay.
But I appreciate the concern.
Yeah, I was so concerned.
I was to put this within hand's reach.
That's alright, I'll just
I need a little table that I can swing out.
So that's how we're starting today. I'm spilling water all over Tony's bed.
We were fairly professional for about 30 seconds.
We did. That was the karma.
we had to offset it.
Too professional.
We introduced the podcast within the first minute. We're going to try and do that from now on. Tell you what the episode's actually about within the first minute.
Talk rubbish after. Okay, right. Let's do.
All right. Okay.
So, how many books do you think you have to talk about?
So I have read 5, and I've got 2 on the go. 3 if we count the audiobook, but it's my sleeping audiobook, so it's on my story graph, because I don't know, but it's a sleeping one, because it's a re-listen to a book I've read.
I came into 2023 with, was it 10?
Yeah, 7 I thought you said, but
I think it was 10. I'm now currently on 19. Currently reading.
You keep doing all those chart things on your story.
Oh my god, the ongoing is just getting. So for
it's
context,
last month's things that I have read total now.
Oh, my NetGalley ones. So for context, I've been doing an update every month, or every Monday, of what I read the week before, and also my NetGalley updates, and
It's not getting smaller.
No, and
none of the lists are getting smaller. Reading your TBR pile, that went up because of your birthday. About 19 books.
Seriously. I also picked up the Throne Glass set. So that was 8 extra books.
Yeah.
And then this month I was like, look, I'm going to calm down. Last month was an outlier, and then this month obviously it wasn't an outlier at all. Why was I lying to myself? Yeah. And then, so in my little weekly wrap up, I have started, finished, ongoing, and my ongoing books are just taken up half the page now. Finish some books.
Yeah. I've only bought 1 book, and it was the Chain of Thorns, the last book in the Last Hours series by Cassandra Clare.
Yeah, I need to send you. That YouTuber has finished her 3-parter on why Cassandra Clare is a bit trash. I'm going to send you it because I think it's funny.
Yeah, you know what? It is what it is. I'm a fantasy trash whore.
No, her as a person is trash.
Okay.
We will be discussing that in a future episode, in fact. In a hot takes episode. Coming next week, I think. Right, let's talk about what we've been reading.
Do you want me to go first? Because 3 of these books is 1 series.
Yeah, go on now.
So we'll probably knock that out. So I read the Folk of the Air series.
Oh yeah.
By Holly Black.
And that's the first one.
You read the first one, told me to read it. I went and read all 3 and you still haven't read the rest.
Standard.
So that's the Cruel Prince, the Wicked King, and Queen of Nothing. Nothing. Oh, that was very local. I just said that. Queen of Nothing. So,
tell me.
How do I describe this in a spoiler-free way for you? I just did this on my blog, so I should be able to do this. So the story opens with the Fae father of our main character's oldest sister sort of turning up at their mortal home, killing their parents, and then taking them all back to fairy.
Yeah.
That is literally the opening scene.
Yeah, so the main character, her and her twin sister, who is barely even a character in the first book, I don't know if she comes into it.
She gets a bit of a personality later.
She's nothing.
But not much.
They are full human, but they've been taken with their older sister, who is part Fae.
Yeah,
to
out of a sense of honour, because they were his wife's children.
So,
despite the fact he killed his wife and her new husband, that there's the father of his kids.
I'm going to kill your parents, but I've got a bit of honour. I'm going to take you to a world you've never heard of.
Yeah, I won't just abandon you.
And where everyone's going to treat you like crap because you're not Fae.
Yeah, because they are human, they obviously have to work very hard, and they're treated quite cruelly by the fairies, because humans are kind of used as servants, but their sort of quote marks adoptive father, let's call him, chooses to treat them like royalty, and then the other Fae royalty hate them for it.
And because they are human, they can be
glamoured.
Well, that's it, yeah.
That they obviously wear charms to protect them from it, but it's not foolproof because the charms can be taken and stuff like that. And Jude kind of just snaps and is like, "I've had enough of this," and starts to fight back, which sort of run-fucks all of them. And obviously we've got the Prince Carden, who is like,
she realises she can lie.
Yeah,
and she can use that to her advantage.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fae cannot lie.
And then when she she starts having it out with one of the princes. There's 7 royal princes, and one of them's in her class, and she starts having it out with him and catches the attention of a different royal prince, who is like, "Hey, I'm going to offer you like a little deal to make your life easier." No spoilers, but it's just like a little little deal.
Political backstabbing and political fighting throughout.
And then that prince gets betrayed, and like the following books follow the kind of fallout from that. And Jude kind of accidentally ends up in a position of power, and then she's like, "Oh shit, I've got to keep this position of power." And then basically it's her just trying to like keep control of like the snowballing situation, and then she gets more and more powerful, and she's like, "Oh fuck."
And she's only like 14 or 15 or something.
I think she's like 16.
Oh, maybe
16, 17. Which in like fairy is like old enough to get married. Her sister gets married to like an arsehole. I don't know if that's a spoiler. You don't know who the arsehole is, so that's not a spoiler.
And her sister's barely a character anyway.
Yeah. Her sister is very much the opposite of Jude. She just wants to fit it in. She wants to be a bride, and that's what she wants. She wants to be a bride, have fairy babies, live her best fairy wife life in the court.
Jude from the very beginning wants to be a guard.
Knight. She wants to be a knight.
That's it.
And then her father is like, "Yeah, you can't be a knight.
You're a human. What are you talking about?"
But it's because
he's
got sneaky plans, basically, and he's like, "Wait for my sneaky plans," but she's like, "Nah,
I want my own plans." Yeah. Like they kind of have a bit of a weird relationship with him because obviously he did kill their parents.
But then they've been raised in fairies since they were like 5 years old. So the fairies all they've ever known. So like their elder sister tries to kidnap them and take them back to fairy, but they don't like it. Don't take them back to the human world. Sorry.
Yeah. So their older sister
never gets over it.
She's the one that can fit in.
Yeah.
And has a right to be there. She's like, "Nah, fuck you guys. I want to go back to human world."
And she's always upset that they assimilated and she didn't, despite the fact she is half Fae
she was
and
old
quite
enough
powerful.
And because she didn't have to try and fit in like the other two did, so
and she doesn't understand what it's like. Yeah, so then it's more. The only thing I'd say different to like obviously how it gets portrayed online is a lot of the focus is on the romance, and it's not a fantasy romance. It is a political
is a subplot to a political.
Yeah, it's all about the political kind of dealings and the spying and the sneaking around. It is about like war games and tactics.
Yeah,
and then there's also like a secondary plot of the love story.
I picked it up because it kept being. I picked it up as a enemies to lovers book. And I was not disappointed that it wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
It was so
it's well
more,
done.
And I loved it. Yeah.
And it's not enemies to lovers in that the love interest that never was her enemy. It's just Jude doesn't realise it. Like, Jude is just so oblivious, and it's quite cleverly written, but you can see right from the start of how she's misconstruing everything that's happening, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just so clear from the beginning.
Yeah, there was some bits that I read that I was like, oh, that's not what you read it as. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's also a child.
Yeah.
And all she cares about and all she knows, and the whole book is based
She just wants to be
around
safe.
just trying to create a life for herself. And she also desperately wants to take some Faye down, I think.
Yeah, I mean, she's a badass as well. Like, there's times where she gets, like, pretty badly injured, and she just walks it off.
Yeah, she's like, I've got to put up an image of this is fine.
Yeah.
I can't show weakness.
That gets real bad later. She gets, like, really badly hurt, and she's just like, walk it off.
She also has a really cute hairstyle. Because she has her hair in little buns, like little horns on her head, which sounds cute. And I love seeing that in fan art. I think it's like quite well written. Yeah,
I think she's a bit cold sometimes, but she is quite cold and like she's into tactics and calculating, and she's not. Yeah, I wouldn't say she's the most emotive narrator really ever, but it's nice to have something different.
She's not about that building relationship lifestyle. She's about that, and that includes like family and friends. She's about that kind of taking power.
Yeah,
I think. Not how it started, but I think by the end of the first book,
I think she kind of is like, oh, a bit of power is quite nice actually.
And then
I've been afraid my whole life.
In a position where she kind of, if she wants to survive, she has to keep going for power. Kind of thing.
Yes, I mean, it just literally snowballs out of her control of just trying to keep herself safe, her family safe.
That last bit in the first book, I was like,
you don't see it coming, do you?
Oh my God.
I like, this is the one.
The last, like, I listened to it as an audio. The last hour, I was like, oh, just my mouth was.
It's every book though. There's all these twists that you don't see coming, but not in a shit way.
Yeah.
Like, it's like we always say, there's a twist that you don't see coming, that's poor writing.
Yeah.
But in this case, it genuinely is very clever misdirection because her narration at no point is lying to you. Her narration is saying all these things without saying them, and so when she does the thing, the big twist, you don't see it coming. But it's then you're like reading it, going, "Oh, well, she said that," but like just didn't, explain it all the way.
I want to pick up the books because you can get the trilogy from the works for like a tenner.
I think that's how I bought it.
Yeah, so I need to go pick them up. I listened to it as an audio, but I definitely want the books because I'd like to reread them. Yeah,
they're pretty, and they're an easy read. They're only like 300-ish pages.
Yeah. And they're YA, which tends to be a quicker read in general.
Yeah, they were an easy read, but I was like reading it at one point, and I was like, oh fuck! Like, I remember going like, oh fuck, this has just happened. Like, and I was like, what do I do
now?
I'm like, because I was around someone's house when I was reading it, and I was like, oh fuck, she's just been made into like, spoiler free. Made into a thing. And he was like, contextless. Context was like, what? And I was like, don't worry.
Like, just be like, oh.
Just be shocked.
Yeah. It's like when I go to my other half and I'm like, oh, this just happened, and he's like, wow.
Cool story. So yeah, that was a trilogy that's been sitting on my bookshelves for about 5 years that I finally read. So go me.
So, yes, speaking of context, I read, which I've briefly mentioned in a previous episode, Lost in the Moment and Found, which is the 8th Wayward Children book by Sean Maguire.
Is this the one that traumatised you?
Yeah. Okay. So I went in and had a massive cry to my partner, and he was just like, what happened? What do I do?
just pat me.
Yeah, I was literally like, I just can't. And then I just showed him the beginning bit, which I read, I think, in an episode, and he was like, okay. I'll give you a cuddle. So this is the 8th book in the series. The series can pretty much, they can all be read as standalones. Almost. They are interconnecting, but you can pick up at any point. So I've just got to read book number 7 and I've read them all. But this is the Wayward Children series, and it's about children who stumble across doorways to other worlds. And they're usually worlds that contain what they are looking for, like what they're missing in their life. As they are children, sometimes it's not necessarily going to be good for them. Yeah. Exactly. Like it's
what they need,
or it's
what they want,
think
but
they want,
not what they need. Yeah.
So, because they're always like worlds to an extreme quite often. So this one follows, and some of the books are actually set in our world. There's a couple of schools dotted around that take the children in when they are returned to our world, because obviously they're usually quite traumatised. They've usually been missing from their family for 5 years or something.
Yeah.
Some of them are just trying to...
They don't age, do they, whether they're...
They do, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Some of them are just trying to learn to live back in our world. Some of them are desperate to find their way back. Sometimes their doorways reappear, sometimes they don't, and if they're desperate to go back and their doorways never reappear, they're traumatised. And when they become a certain age, they basically age out of being able to find these doorways. Ooh. So if they don't re-find their doorway...
Oh, it's sad!
Yeah. So the Lost in a Moment and Found, it says, welcome to the shop where the lost things go. So this follows Antoinette, who goes by Antsy because she never keeps still, so her nickname is Antsy. And when she was a child, she lost her father, and it says metaphorically. He's not in the shop, and she'll never see him again. So she loses her father in that he passes away, unfortunately. And that's the first thing she loses. And then she loses a lot more in her life, including like her childhood, her innocence, her ability to trust people, her ability to trust the adults around her, to trust her mum, like all of these things. And she finds the shop where lost things appear. And she works there. And it follows her little, because they're quite short books, they're usually about 200 pages. And it was the most heartbreaking book so far in the series. And yeah.
I can actually hear it in your voice.
It was just killer. Oh my god.
And didn't you do like a YouTube review of it where you just sobbed?
Yeah, I've never actually done anything with that.
You're not going to upload it? Yeah.
So it was too raw. Yeah, it's just an amazing book.
It was like that with All the Bright Places. When I read that, I couldn't talk about it for I was like, I need some time with this.
Yeah, it's just, sometimes those books really, really hit you. And it really made me cuddle the baby a lot harder and go and give my son a big kiss when he was asleep and just, yeah. Well written. Fiona Maguire definitely put
I've got them in my wish list, the Way with Children books.
They're so brilliant. I love them. They are fabulous. The first two spoil each other because they're like interconnecting storylines. Okay. So you can pretty much read them in any order because they literally spoil each other's ending. But yeah, brilliant. There's like one for horse girls, like a girl goes to a horse world. The one I haven't read is called Where the Drowned Girls Go, and I think the girl in that becomes a mermaid. There's rep of pretty much every kind in it. It's just, wonderful. So the mermaid girl, the one I haven't read, she has appeared in a previous book. I believe like she gets bullied for being quote unquote fat. And she goes to this world and she finds that her body shape is perfect for swimming fast and stuff like that. It's like, it's all about learning to accept yourself and, brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be devastating.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you noticed when you said the thing about the shop where the lost things go, and I went, oh.
Yeah, I know. It's just like there's a girl that appears in the shop and she's like, I've lost my cat, and they go and find her cat and she gets the cat back. But then it's full of stuff like Antsy discovers there's like jars of baby teeth and things like that stuff you lose and you don't realise you've lost it. And there's stuff that will never be found because the people are no longer around to find their missing stuff. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking. 10 out of 10, pick it up. It emotionally destroyed me.
So my next book is a real shift in tone from that.
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Okay, so I've in my job that pays me, we have been relaunching the brand with a new name and new colours and a new website, and I have been heavily involved / kind of in charge of that whole process, and that's a lot. It's been a bit.
I'm just sitting here nodding.
It's been a bit stressful, but very
You
cool,
did it.
and I'm very proud of everything I did, and like I enjoy my job, which is really weird to say considering I have a very long history of hating my jobs.
Yeah.
So it's really weird to be like exhausted and tired and fed up, but also being like, but this is good.
Yeah, but feeling like fulfilled by it. Yeah.
However, during that whole process, I needed something a bit mindless to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So I found Taunt Her by Caitlin Dare.
Mm-hmm.
It is the book 1 of the Rebels at Stirling Prep.
Yep, sounds like something nice and chill. Was this a Audible library one?
Audible, including library one. I just wanted something easy. This looked like it. I think I found it on some list somewhere of like bully romances.
Oh, you're really entering bully romance.
I want to give it a go because I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Or
you consumed all the Zodiac Academy.
Yeah, I know, but I was like, is that just a well done version of that?
I don't think that's well done at all, isn't it?
No, you haven't seen the bit where the relationship changes between.
book.
Yeah, you've seen the book where he is still bullying her.
I'm just talking about the writing. Is not done. I'm not saying it's a bad book.
No, they are really good books, but quality variable. But good story, so like good character, like goodish character.
Anyway,
I need to play you, so I've got the audiobook because that's my re-listen at the moment. Is the audio for book 1, and I hate the voice actor, and I don't know what to do with it.
Audiobooks.
Yeah, all of them are on Audible. You have to pay user credits though.
You should return it if you're not going to listen to it.
I am listening to it, but like they've given Darcy and Tori like really sultry voices, and I don't like it. Anyway,
are they done by the same narrator?
Yeah, all of them. And like some of the heirs' voices aren't what I thought. Oh, we haven't told you. There is the baby podcaster is present. She's was sleeping.
Just woken up. She's like, tell me more about this book.
So far, she was napping. She's a bit
Very
wheezy at the moment, so you might just hear little wheezy breaths. That's not us breathing, just so you know. Or there's not like a pug in the room. Anyway, I need to play you that because it's... Anyway, so this... Okay, I'm just going to read you the description on Storygraph, okay? He hates to want her, she wants to hate him. Already. After a good start. Remy Tanner wasn't part of the plan, but when I see my uncle doting on her, I know she's going to help me destroy him. I'll taunt her, test her. In the end, I'll break her. Ace Jagger wasn't a good guy, but he swept into my life like a storm, and I'm caught up in the aftermath. He's cruel, calculating. In the end, I never stood a chance. She might be a Sterling Prep princess, and I might be the guy from the wrong side of the tracks, but one thing's for sure, I won't stop until I get what I want. Revenge.
He's called Ace as well. Oh my gosh.
Remy and Ace.
Remy and Ace. Pointy.
And then it has a little star at the bottom. Taunt Her is a dark high school bully romance. If possessive tattooed motorcycle riding alpha holes aren't your thing, you probably won't like this book.
And do you like it? Did you like it?
You
finished it, haven't you?
Yeah, I finished it. It was good fun.
It
was
worked
what
for
it
you
was.
needed it
It
for.
was pretty awful, mostly because all that stuff about I'm going to destroy her. No.
Never actually.
Well, no, he does. He does do something pretty shitty, but immediately regrets it and tries to make up for it. So, the main character, Ace, him and his 2 brothers have been living in a trailer park on the shit side of town with their drug addict mum who's just passed away. And so Ace has basically had to raise his brothers.
Is this like Nate and Bronwyn from...
Yeah.
One of us.
He's had to basically raise his brothers. He's done some pretty dodgy shit in order to make money for them. His mum was it's alluded to that his mum did a bit of prostituting, but it's not directly said. But that was for drugs. His father's brother is a very rich man on the other side of the town who owns a mansion that's empty. It's just him living in it.
But he doesn't want anything to do with his kiddos.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. There's this whole backstory we still don't know by the end of the first book.
Oh, there's more.
Of the uncle knew what their living situation was on the other side of town and never ever chose to adopt them. And now Ace is nearly 18. He's just about to turn 18 in this book, and suddenly he decides to adopt the 3 boys. Foster them.
Why?
Put them into the very expensive paid for prep school. And the other 2 boys are I think sophomores, they're only a couple of years younger than Ace. And Ace has obviously had to like always look after them. And he's literally, he was part of the deal. His uncle wouldn't take just the younger boys because Ace was like, I'll stay in the caravan, you take the kids.
Yeah.
And he would.
So why does he want Ace?
I don't know. The uncle insisted all 3 boys go.
Soon as well.
He insisted, and they did a deal with Ace that Ace has to pass high school, and then his uncle will have no more to do with him.
That's all very strange.
Yeah, and Ace is going because his uncle wouldn't take the kids without him. So he's like, I want them to have better futures. And his uncle, like, one of them's going to be a pro footballer, and his uncle's using his connections to get him on teams, and which works. So Ace is like, okay, I just need to stick this out. But there's this whole backstory of like his dad is supposedly dead, but then you're like start to wonder if that was true or not, because Ace starts to allude to a lot of things, and he wants to get revenge on his uncle. His uncle has a girlfriend who has a daughter who he dotes on. He pays her rent, like the mother's rent, all this kind of stuff. The mother is a socialite in that circle, but when her husband left, she like had fuck all money, so she relies heavily on him. And then like the relationship is kind of based on, it's a bit gold diggery.
So the daughter is Remy.
Yeah, the daughter is Remy. And so on the first night, the boys go to the big posh house, and like Ace is seeing how his uncle lives. And he's just angry. Like, why did you leave me? You knew. He was like, I have memories of you coming to the caravan when I was like 5. So you knew. Yeah. So he's mad. And he decides to get revenge on his uncle by dating the prep school princess, Remy.
Okay. I mean, it feels like there's probably better ways.
There's some other backstory going on there of like what he thinks. He keeps alluding to something his uncle's done. And it involves his dad.
He could probably just like sell the uncle's stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then so
shit on his desk.
He decides to date Remy, but then he immediately is just like a massive simp for her and actually does nothing mean to her. Like, doesn't bully her at all. He's immediately a complete simp.
It's not really a bully romance.
Like, she's getting bullied by girls at schools. He stands up for her, he then like takes her out of school, takes her out for a nice day out, takes her out for pizza and all this kind of stuff. But he doesn't really dodge you right at the end, which is like the thing that apparently makes it a bully romance. But I was like, he's not really bullying her. But there's like lots of stuff about like he bites her boob at one point. He's like, I just wanted to mark her with my brand, and like she's into it, so fine.
His brand is biting boobs.
Yeah. Okay. So she was all for it.
I'm assuming
so it was consensual
was
biting,
an intimate situation, and not just they're walking down the street and he's like, I'm gonna bite her boob.
Yeah.
Because that feels a bit weird.
Just like chomp. So. And then there is quite a cliffhanger ending. I think I'm going to listen to the other ones. They're only 7 hours. And you know what? It's one of those things we don't need to analyse. It's shit. It's just shit.
When they're minors and they have like
they are both over 16. They're both like nearly 18. Minors. And it's like her 18th birthday in the book. Not that it excuses anything, but
I mean, at 18 years old, you're quite unlikely to be partaking in like boob biting and stuff. I don't know, it's just like, why? That's usually what puts me off like these kind of books.
High school,
I don't like them being in high school because it feels inappropriate, because if they're read by people of those age, if they're read by people of the same age, is that I don't want them to think that's normal. I don't know, it's just
I don't know. I think on Audible it's the rating is obviously like adults, so you would hope only adults are listening to it.
That's why I didn't mind the Zodiac Academy, because they were adults.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I just always find it a bit grey,
and
it's not something I tend to. I mean, I like my sex scenes with monsters, not with.
But those are grown adult monsters.
Exactly. Like, we're talking about 500-year-old dragons. Come on.
We need a 500-year age difference.
Yeah. But not like 500-year-old vampire and 14-year-old. Like, No. You've been waiting 500 years and you're perfect woman. No, we're not even going into Twilight territory. Anyway.
I'm just gonna watch her sleep.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stalk her. Oh my god. Anyway, that sounds like a fun.
You know what? It was 7 hours and kept me going for a work day. Yeah.
So I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it was what it was.
That sounds good. Well, I was going to do on a different note, but I'll do the one on a similar vein.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so for a tandem collective read-along. I read Not My Type by Evie Mitchell, and it's the first in the All Access series. And it is I'm going to say adult book about about a sexologist called Frankie, who is a wheelchair user, and she runs a sex podcast. Basically, it's called All Access Podcast, and it's about crushing stigmas and creating sexual connections for her fans. So she basically delves into different fetishes and stuff, and she delves into how to make them more accessible for different viewers, and viewers write in and she answers questions and stuff. So she is when she says she's a sexologist, it's not like she's made up. She is very intellectual. She has a degree in sexology, basically.
Okay, she is psychology behind it.
Exactly,
yeah. Okay.
And then a listener reaches out to her and says they want to learn about accessible rope play, and it's not something she's ever been involved in. A friend suggests to her that she chats to this guy she went to school with called Jay.
Yeah.
And because he is a rigger, a person who does rope play, and he teaches a workshop on accessible rope play randomly. Because in this town, that's a thing that you can go to the local community centre and have a accessible rope play session. And so obviously Frankie gets in touch with him. It turns out they went to school together. It's a very small town, which makes it even weirder that they have an accessible rope play workshop in town. But okay.
Can you imagine that in this town?
And it turns out that they both have lust at first sight. He is well known for not being monogamous, obviously, and she is well known for being monogamous, obviously. What I liked about it was that it was lust at first sight. In their first meeting, they met in a coffee shop. They are flirting with each other straight away. They very quickly bone, and then that's it. They just there's no pissing about like there is in some romance books. I'm just going to talk over her because there's too many gaps otherwise. She even the third act conflict that is usually something I hate, because in romance it's always miscommunication. Yeah, but it's just barely there. It's great. They just have a little. He has just a little wobble, DTF. And then literally 2 days later, he's like, "I'm so sorry, my bad." It's just it. It was just really fun, and I'll tell you what I've discovered. Yeah. Also, this is the first in the series. There's different characters, but I'm going to read the next one. Yeah. They're all about different disabled main characters as well, and they're all quite kinky and What I've discovered that I like in romance. I've worked out what I like in romance. I like the happily ever after part. I want, in the main book, not an epilogue, I want to see the mundane of a relationship. Yeah. I want chapters where they are
the
just
big moment.
Making dinner together. Yeah, I want the big reveal, the big whatever, the big proposal, the big standing in the street singing, whatever. I want that to happen at midway through the book. Yeah. And then I want just them having a happy life.
Just that's domestic life, yeah.
I've realised that's what I want, and I don't want just the epilogue. It's not enough.
We don't see enough of that. No. Just also another part of romance is that sometimes you're just doing mundane daily shit.
Yeah. I want the usually it's lust. I'm not a huge fan of love at first sight. I love lust at first sight. And then I want them domestic, becoming friends. Yeah. Just making each other dinner. Going out for a date. I want that. That's what I want in my romance.
Sap.
I realised that's what I want in my romance. And that's what I liked about this, because they got into bed together really quickly. The sex scenes were really good. And then it was just
built from
talking
there.
About she was going to his house for dinner, and he was like, "Oh, I need to install a ramp for her." Just these little things, just a really small little bit. She meets his family, and he's really worried about her meeting his family, but nothing bad happens. It's just they all get along. I love that. Yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I like that.
Well recommend. I listened to it as an audio. They had a male and a female narrator, and their voices worked well together. I liked it.
Maybe recommend. That might be one for me. wonder if that's on the included library.
I listened to it on Scribed, so you can use my code and you get 60 days.
Yeah, I need to do that.
10 out of 10.
Nice. I like that.
It did not destroy me.
Emotionally light.
I was happy.
So I've got another swift shift in tone.
Swifty shifty.
Okay, so the other listen I've been doing a lot of listening.
You've been doing a lot of like commuting and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
is good for
usually I actually quite struggle to when I get them in pieces like that. Again, this was a listen for while I was doing this busy work, but I wanted something like interesting because I reached the point which you get to in every project where you're starting to wrap up, where it's like repetitive shit. And I was like, I need something to keep my brain busy, block out lots of the lovely people in my office.
Put me for her.
Yeah, it's a sort of zone in.
Yeah.
And obviously where I was quite tired and quite busy, like making myself focus is just the whole game.
Like,
so this book
it's something
worked.
You actually have to work towards sometimes.
I have to really try some days to focus. Like really, really try. Because it's like not been space for me to not focus.
Yeah.
Like I don't have time for zoning out. So I listened to Red Rising, the first book in the Red Rising saga.
I want to check this series out.
I've wanted to read this for ages, but I'm actually really glad I'm listening to it, and I'm going to keep listening.
It's a graphic audio one, isn't it?
No.
Oh, they do have a graphic audio
Yeah,
one.
no, this one, I mean, it's on the included library.
Yeah.
And I actually think this would be quite dense as a read. So I'm kind of glad I've listened. I think it would be too dense as a read.
This whole time I thought it was sci-fi, but it's fantasy.
It's
sci-fi,
fantasy, dystopian,
okay.
You know, all my buzzwords.
Yeah.
So, this is set in kind of like a future world of ours where we've colonised all the other planets. And it opens with our main character, our narrator. He is, so he thinks, a digger helping to get Mars ready for colonisation. So they basically live, there are whole towns full of people who are miners. They live underground, they live and work underground, they never see the stars. And it's just kind of their lives. It sucks, but they get along with their lives. There's very kind of deeply entrenched cultural things, like they dance as a people, so you get taught the dances, which is kind of like almost like a rite of passage of when you start dancing certain dances is like to do with certain ages. People get married quite young because they die quite young. It's a hard life, but it's kind of like the main character is very much of like, this life is what you make of it. He's like, you know, he likes the domesticity of it. He's like, I'm going to do the best I can be. He's what's called a hell diver, which is like in the mines is the person who does really dangerous shit. And he's one of the best hell divers they've ever had. But he's still like really young. And he's married. He's got his wife, Io, is like more of a dreamer. More questions the life they live. And why the things the way they are, whereas he just kind of goes, well, that's just how it is. Why think about that? Nothing's going to change.
Making the best of it.
Yeah, he's like, nothing's going to change. I don't see the point, because in their world, people are classed by colours, and certain colours are considered below others. So reds is what he is, and reds obviously got red hair. Real like deeply entrenched reds even have red eyes because they are miners as a race.
So. Are they born with like? Are they the colour of like they're born with the red hair? So they're reds.
They're reds. And there's pinks, which are red and gold hybrids, and they are bred specifically to be beautiful. They are almost like a slave prostitute race. And then there's golds. Golds are like top tier, and then you've got silver and you've got bronzes. Golds. Then there's a level above the golds, which is called the peerless scarred. And that is people that have made it through the Gold's special academy they send their kids to. And if they succeed and pass through the academy, their faces get scarred. Because the whole thing with Golds is that they're perfect. They are perfection. They are gods among men. They are gods among men. They've been bred specifically that way. So there's different eugenics that have gone on in the past. That means like physically the Golds are physically different to the Reds. Which then is used to keep justifying the superiority. So
trigger warning for eugenics in this book, but this series by sounds of it.
I mean, It's exploring eugenics and slavery and propaganda and how, like, it's just built culturally into the society. The main character is very much like, I am a hell diver, this is my wife, one day we'll have kids, I'll be the best diver I can be, I'm probably going to die at 40.
So he embodies the perfect red.
When he sees a gold, he is like, he's looking at him and he's like, that is a god. He's like, I can understand why they are superior. He's literally the narration. He's like, I understand why they're superior to us. Look at him compared to me. I feel worthless and small and dirty next to him.
The propaganda's working then.
Yeah. Whereas his wife, Io, questions it. And he's always going to him, why is it like this? This isn't okay. This is not fair. Io's very like...
Can they get in trouble if they're caught questioning it as well?
There's a dance that they're not allowed to do. And if you do the dance, you're hung immediately. They're whipped for almost anything. It's really harsh. And so, but Io secretly digs her way through to a garden. So they have what's called the Greys that are their kind of ward keepers who like enforce the laws. And the Greys have been built a garden underground with fakes that can get them starlight, and it's a real garden with real plants and real grass. And Io finds a way to dig through to it and takes him to it, and like she's like, look at this, it's so beautiful. She's like, they've had this all along and won't let us use it. And they don't realise there are cameras in the garden, and there is obviously all out because of that. I'm not going to say what happens, but there is a song that they're not like, there's banned, a rebel song that is banned. And when they get in trouble for going to the gardens, for some, just by pure luck, they decide to send like an arch-governor for this particular punishment, rather than, which is usually just be like some low-level grunt. But they're making a point, so it's just by coincidence the arch-governor is there for this particular punishment.
Yeah.
And Io is like, there's cameras, arch-governor's there, she's like, I'm going to make a point. I'm going to be a martyr. And she sings the song, which is bad. So, I don't know if I can tell you what happens after that without
just leave it at that.
But no, it's literally the first couple of chapters of the book, and the rest of the book is what happens, like what he does as a result. So I don't. Let me see if in the description, if it says
Goodreads or whatever.
Okay, it says "Memory of a Lost Love" in the description of the book. So I think you guys can put two and two together there. Yeah. So Io is basically hung for singing that song.
You said she was going to be a martyr, so I assumed she was killed.
Yeah. She says to him, and he's like screaming at her, "Don't do this," because he knows she's martyring herself. Because she said to him, "I want you to rebel. I want you to fight, Darrow." And he's like, "I don't want to." He's like, "I want to have children with you. I want to have my life with you." And she's like, "No, you could do so much more." And he's like, "I don't want to." So when they're punished for going to the garden, and the arch-governor's there, she decides to martyr herself, and he realises what she's doing, and he's just, chills.
It's from his point of view.
Yeah, when you're listening, chills in the audiobook, because they sing the song as well. The audio is 2 minutes of him, the guy singing the song as Io singing it, and I'm not going to lie to you, goosebumps.
Yeah.
And then, Darrow loses his shit, and he chooses to bury her in the garden. He cuts her down and buries her in the dead of night, knowing he would get hung for it as well.
Yeah.
But he's like, I don't want to live. This is what I wanted.
Point? Like,
yeah. And he gets rescued by the rebels. And they're like, basically, we have a mission for you. It's suicide, but you are kind of suicidal anyway. So,
and he's like, do you
want to make Io's dream come true? But it's like horrific what he has to go through. So like the skeletal structure of golds is different to reds, but they have people called carvers who can like change on like your skeletal structure. So his bones get replaced one by one. So he has the bone density of gold, and he goes through like they have different temporal lobes as well. Gold, you get bred that way. So they genuinely change the physiology of his brain
to make him
pass as a gold. And then they're like, basically all the point of that is for him then to go to this academy that they send their gold children to. They've done this to other reds and none have survived the process. But Darrow's just like,
the process of being turned into one, or the process
surviving the process of being turned into a gold. Most die, And then once that, getting through the academy.
Okay, yeah.
Like, most of them don't. There's a thing when you enter the academy called the passage, and most of them don't even survive the passage.
Oh, okay.
And there's like, there's a test that they do before they go through the passage. And Darrow does so well on that test that they send an examiner to check if he cheated.
Oh.
And that kind of thing.
Well, if he sounds like he's very good at just like following instructions. So.
Well, no, so he's... Basically, they're almost trying to... This way they've bred their slave race, the Reds, has made him a better gold. He just didn't have the physiology of a gold. Because he has better dexterity with his hands. A lot of being a hell diver is solving puzzles. And he's very good at the kind of thinking of like... So there was... Example they gave was... If a fish has 1,500 scales on its left side and 1,500 scales on its right side, which side is the most scaled? And the answer is the outside of the fish.
Of course.
So that kind of lateral thinking, and he's really good at that just by nature of the way he had to think to do his job.
Yeah.
Like, very smart in the way that the golds respect. So the whole point is, like, So then he goes into the academy, and then the most of the book is the academy itself, once he's through the passage, is war games. And he's just really good at the war games.
Thinking that way, yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't play.
And it helps that he has no interest in living anyway, so...
Yeah. But he doesn't play the way the golds do. So he doesn't... His tactics aren't the way the golds have been taught to act.
Yeah.
So, like, part of the war games is you create a hierarchical structure. Like, they've been told to do this. And they can enslave people. So if they capture people, they mark them as slaves. Okay. And then, so they're literally told to almost recreate the Empire's...
Structure?
Yeah, but it's like universe-wide structure.
Oh,
so this is a structure they have on all the planets. And basically this whole thing is to indoctrinate the golds into believing they're superior for a reason. This is the system for a reason. And basically Darrow's like, what if I didn't do that?
Yeah.
So then he basically decides not to take slaves in the end, and then to instead invade other... Because they're divided by their houses. So he decides to invade other houses, free their slaves, and then not enslave them. And built himself a very loyal army as a result.
Because they're not forced.
And
slaves,
But he does such a good job that the people in charge are kind of like, you didn't do it right.
Yeah.
But we can't reward this. But also, you've done better.
You've got results.
Yeah. And the ending is so good. I'm not going to spoil that. Yeah. So, in conclusion,
recommend.
Very good book. Very interesting listen. The ending was really good. Not a twist ending, but just like, you know when you're just like, oh, that was satisfactory.
It was an ending that makes you want to pick up the rest of the series.
Yeah.
It's a trilogy.
Yeah. All three are in the included library. So, yeah, they're quite long.
I have actually been thinking about reading that recently because I've been a lot of my booktubers I follow are doing a read along of them, and it's been making me want to read it.
Yeah, it's been in my wish list forever, but because it was dystopian, I wasn't sure because I kind of went off that vibe.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm really glad I listened. I think it'd be too meaty as a book.
They're quite chunky books.
But I think like the politicalness of it, and obviously all of that is quite deep. You know, with the eugenics and the slavery and him slowly realising the way they've been indoctrinated, and you know, but then he when he goes among the golds, he then has to realise that these people aren't monsters.
No,
so you go through a phase of like, these people are evil, and then no, they're literally, he sees how they're indoctrinated into believing golds are better through the academy, and he almost falls for it as well, and then he kind of catches himself.
Yeah, he's always believed that they're better as well, hasn't he? So,
well, he's always like, my gold body is so much better. Yeah. But then he starts to realise a lot of his red characteristics. He's like, because of my dexterity, I beat this gold at this thing, and he starts.
Yeah, and then that characteristics are what are helping him to prevail.
So he starts. At first he's like, oh, my gold body can run this fast, blah blah blah, and then over time the language switches to like, I can do this because I'm a red, and
that sounds good.
Yeah, and like him versus the god. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a meaty book. Cool. Yeah.
So, further up my list, especially if it's included in the included library.
Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
They end the audiobook with a singer and a band actually singing the song that EO sings.
That sounds cool.
And so I was listening at work. It was at the end of the day, everyone had left. I was staying a bit late because I was late to work. And I was finishing something. And I was in the office alone. Straight up made me cry. I had such a visceral reaction to this song. Because the song is like the Reaper Swings. And it's, haunting. So you can say. Anyway, there we go. That's it. That's me done.
Added to my library.
But it's like 3 times the song is sung in the audiobook. Once by EO. Once by Darrow telling it to someone.
Yeah.
And then once at the end. After the big ending.
Yeah. Is that what happened? Is it Baby Girl?
I was really shocked at the reaction I had to it. I mean, music makes me cry all the time. I'm one of those people that gives goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like I do have this kind of reaction to songs all the time, but I was just really shocked. I was in the middle of doing something in the office, and I straight up just stop and like cry, and I was like, "What the fuck,
yeah, dude,
dude!"
That's not cool.
Okay, let's do.
Right.
I've lost count of how many we're up to with you.
I'm not going to talk about them all anyway. Okay.
Do you want to summarise? Like, just read out the names of the ones you're not going to do a big detailed look at. Were you not asked?
We'll just see. So I read Ghost Music by Anne Yu, which was that one that I requested on NetGalley because it had mushrooms on the cover.
Oh yeah.
It was really
the cover does matter, guys.
It's a literary fiction. It's Chinese-based, Chinese author. So it's kind of like it doesn't really. It's like women's fiction, I guess they would technically put it as, which I think is a ridiculous. It's literary fiction. So it follows a lady who is in a marriage. It's at the beginning of the book. She kind of doesn't realise how unfulfilling the marriage is.
Yeah,
he works all the time. Very Chinese culture. She is a housewife.
Okay,
but okay. So at the beginning, his mum she's very ill, so they've decided to move into a bigger house and take his mum in. And the main character, let me just double check her name, Song Yan and her mother-in-law don't really have the best relationship. Song Yan is a city girl, and her mother-in-law is very much small town vibes and doesn't really want to be in a city, blah, blah, blah. So her mother-in-law turns up, and she kind of stirs a lot in their relationship, as mother-in-laws often do in fiction. She asks a lot of questions about children, and Song Yan's like, well, I desperately want children, but Mr. Husband is not ready for it yet. So then conversations start happening, and then these kind of things come to light in their relationship. Song Yan realises she's actually very unfulfilled, and there's also a subplot of she is a pianist, and her dad is like quite a famous pianist as well. And she was following in his footsteps, but then she decided she wanted to do something more with her life. So she stopped, and very much disappointed her parents, and she has not done anything with her life beyond marry this man who is not a great husband, is not a great provider really, and she teaches piano. Then one day some mushrooms start turning up, and the mother-in-law is like, oh, these mushrooms are from our small little region where we grew up, and husband loves these, and they start making food, and Song Yan's like, but these are not actually for us, they're obviously for the people who lived here before, whatever, but they can't find where to return them. They try and speak to the delivery person, the delivery person's like, we have no return address. And the mushrooms start turning up every week, so they start factoring them into their meals and things, and the husband loves it because it's like comfort food from when he was a child. And the mum's like, let me teach you how to make proper food for my son, so you're not a trashy wife who doesn't do what I want her to do by having children, or you're not making my husband, you're not making my son happy. He goes on a work trip, and the mum's like, are you not making him food to take with him? And she's like, well, no, he's going to be on the plane for a work trip. And I'm like, you should be making him home comfort food to take with him on his work trip. And then one day a letter arrives from the person who's been sending them the mushrooms, and she goes to the address and discovers that the person who's been sending them the mushrooms is this world famous composer and pianist who disappeared years and years ago. And he is her idol. So she starts going to see him and playing piano with him.
Oh, cute.
That's it, really. That's all I can kind of say.
Yeah.
It's very strange. It was really good, very heartfelt. I did feel things, and the mushrooms were cool. Oh yeah, right at the beginning, it opens up with her being in a dark room, and the mushrooms are talking to her, like they're growing in her room and talking to her, and it's like a dream she's had.
Oh.
So yeah, the mushrooms are really cool.
Oh, I like that. Nice little symbolism with the mushrooms and stuff.
Yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed it.
Did you find out why he was sending her mushrooms?
No.
Okay. Just random mushrooms.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, I was sent mushrooms, so I decided to send them on. And she's like, word to me, and it's like, I just picked an address at random or something. It's just all very weird, yeah.
Okay.
Very strange.
I like that.
Interesting, it was fun, it was very surreal. I enjoyed
exactly
it.
The kind of shit you like.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Shall I do another one?
Yeah. We're out of mine, I'm on to all the currently reads.
Oh, okay, brilliant. So I read a horror called Dead Silence, which I've mentioned before that I wanted to read. I read it for a Reddit book group by S.A. Barnes, and it's a horror sci-fi. And it's about a group of I don't really know what they are. Let me see if it says what they are. No, it doesn't really say. So they're like, I don't know what their actual, I can't remember what their actual job is, but they're in a spaceship. They're like in space, something or other. Anyway, and they come across this Aurora, which is basically like the Titanic. It was a huge ship, a luxury liner that was sent into space, and something happened to it. It never came back, and the people, like, nothing was ever found.
Oh,
communication was lost. Yeah. And they come across it, and they realise they could do like this finders keepers, like salvage law, and they could go in, because obviously it was a luxury liner, so it was the height of luxury at the time, and rumours had it
like the wreck of the Titanic, which got robbed to bits.
Yeah, which is basically what
before it was preserved.
There was, like, for instance, solid gold taps and things. So they're like, look, we can go in, we need to get some evidence that we found it, so that we can have prestige of being the ones that found the liner. But also, if we happen to take some extra to line our pockets, well, hey. However, when they get onto the ship,
they find out why it was abandoned.
Maybe it's not abandoned. I liked it. What I didn't like about it is, so it goes between now and then. So, but not in terms of then of the ship. It's the now is the main character, the narrator, in a mental institution.
Okay.
And she's the only survivor from her crew.
I imagine that makes super interesting reading though, as a flash forward, because it's just like,
yeah, right at the beginning. So the first chapter, they're like, the rest of your crew died, and then you made it. What happened? And it's her telling the story, and it's like, well,
spoiler alert.
I would have preferred watching the story and not knowing if anyone's going to survive or what's going to happen.
Or like hinting that they all die, but not stating it explicitly like that.
Yeah, and then I will forgive it. I will forgive it slightly because it's a female author, but unreliable narrator, which we all know is something I despise.
I like it when it's done well, when it's just deliberate. Like, not deliberate omission, but like, I like it's been plucked out of their asshole. The truth.
So this is like, right at the beginning, they're like, you're the only survivor, the rest of your crew died. Also, just for context, you're mental, and you've been mental since you were a child.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell us the story. And it's like, okay. Great. So I think the concept was great. I really enjoyed the parts where they were exploring the ship and finding out what happened. I found the explanation a little bit dissatisfying, but just because I wanted it to be something else.
Okay.
That wasn't a negative on the book. That was just, I'd hoped for a different storyline. So I just wish they hadn't done that part. And then about 2/3 of the way through, we kind of catch up with the two storylines, and then she is leading like a government rescue team back to the salvage ship, and that's like the last.
What, even though she's mental?
Yeah.
And they've said she's mental.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, okay. Not that mental people can't do that, but like...
But in this, they're basically like, you know...
You're broken, you're fucked,
yeah,
but also
we
lead this really important mission to the place where your trauma happened.
And they're basically like, we don't trust what you're saying anyway. We think you... I think they're like... I can't remember right, but I think like one of the government people is like, we think you killed all your crew and you're making this up. And the other government person's like, tell me about what happened. Like, good guy, bad guy.
Oh, okay.
So I'm disappointed. I wanted more from it.
Thing is, I feel like I would struggle with... so, you know, like, you see those footage of people diving wrecks?
Mm-hmm.
Even when it's not creepy, I genuinely find that kind of footage so unsettling and just like, terrifying.
Anything to do with deep sea freaks me out as it is. And putting it into space is like extra freaky.
Because then it's not like, at least deep sea, I like that you can see the passage of time because obviously it decays, things grow on it. It's not like dead. Whereas in the space, it would be like frozen in time.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Creepy. Like those houses that you see that got sealed for some reason, and then they look like they're straight out of the 1920s or whatever. And like, I don't know what it does to me. It just like unsettles me.
Captured at the time that, and in this, it's not just the ship that's captured. It's like the bodies and not decomposing. So they're
because they're in space and they wouldn't. So there's no oxygen or anything.
Exactly. Because when the ship like. Whatever happened to the ship, obviously I'm not spoiling, everything got shut down to preserve, so... Okay. Yeah, so it had such...
We both know I'm a wimp with horror reading. I can watch any horror film, but reading I struggle.
It had so much, like...
You know when you're like, I guess you're reading it thinking if these couple things were tweaked, this could be such a good book. Yeah. Definitely.
If it had been... I don't know. Maybe you could say I'm sexist. If it had been a male author, I probably would have put it down because I'd have been like, I'm not into unreliable narrators written by men or unreliable female narrators.
No, it's unreliable female narrators where they've just made them mental and that's what makes them unreliable. Yeah. That is something a male horror writer author tends to do, or thriller writer.
They're always alcoholics in thriller books or whatever. And it's like,
so that I think that's where you're coming from more than anything.
Yeah, it just feels like a lazy plot device quite often. And the next one is one that was a current read. I actually started it in like November and it took me just so long to read it. It was 500 pages long though, so...
that's a big book for you.
Africa Risen, and it's a short story collection, a new era of speculative fiction, and I can't remember how many stories it was. There was quite a lot of stories. It was well worth like the money you'd be able to...
That's when I've seen that. I think
32 original stories showcasing the breadth of fantasy and science fiction from Africa and the African
diaspora.
Thank you. Yeah, it was brilliant. I started reading it as an ebook, and then I was able to get hold of a audio, so I did that instead, and it was fabulous as an audio. Strongly recommend. Like hearing it in the different regional dialects and stuff. Much better.
Well, the accents vary so much,
and each story had a different narrator.
Yeah.
So it was so well done. Short story collections. Obviously, there were some that were better than others, but I would say there was no misses. There was no bad stories.
None that you were like, this is a waste of time.
No, I genuinely want to go back through, reread it, and review each individual one. That is something I want to do. Brilliant. And it had some really well-known authors in it as well. So there was... Let me just double check some of the ones I read that authors I've read from before or intend to read. So there was Tanarive Dew, who has a few books I want to read. There was... Oh, this doesn't have the whole list. But yeah, there was quite a few authors that I intend to read or have read from before, so it was great to read short stories by them. It was just brilliant. Excellent. Pick it up. Fantasy and sci-fi, and some of it was like future, some of it was it was just...
There's a few ones I picked up. Do you remember I did a whole list of them? I bought them and then read them over the following 3 years. That all to do with different African, and we've got obviously Song of Wraiths and Ruin, which is, I can't remember where it's set, but it's somewhere not African but something else. That's helpful, isn't it? But as in, like, there are myths that aren't Western centric.
Yeah,
is what probably the best way to put it. There's quite a lot of them that are, you can see that I kind of grouped them.
Yeah.
Sort of the ones that are kind of Africa based are all kind of grouped. Now I Rise. I don't know if there's a name for that whole series. Children of Blood and Bone.
Gilded Ones?
Gilded Ones I've read. I haven't read the second book yet, but the Merciless Ones.
Waybearer. Have you read Waybearer?
No, but for what we're doing in episode, third one we're recording today, which I can't remember which episode number it is, but it's one of the ones that we could potentially pick for me.
Yeah, so it was really good. I definitely recommend it because it's a great way to be introduced to a bunch of authors as
There's
well.
lots of, like, there are lots of fantasy creatures that are not Western, that are actually really cool, like jinns and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That whole mythology and folklore, like, I didn't know much about, so I started reading these kind of things, and they're really cool.
Yeah, and you can also see the influence for what then became Western stories. Mm-hmm. Because we don't really have as deep a history in terms of. I mean, we have very history. Yeah.
Whereas a lot of these places, we have a very rich oral storytelling history as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I really love that. I also read for a read along. It's the first time I've ever read it, surprisingly. Anne of Green Gables. I read the first one.
I love the series, the TV series.
I'm going to watch
on Netflix.
it now, yeah.
It's so, like, heartwarming.
This book was just wonderful.
Just, like, nice.
So I listened to it for a read along for a new... So I'm obviously trying to find some alternatives to Audible. So I use Scribed. I think it should be Scribed, but people pronounce it as Scribed.
That's what it is. I would say Scribed.
Scribed,
because Scribed is an actual word that they've abbreviated.
Exactly.
So Scribed makes no sense. Anyway.
So it's Scribed and Libro FM I use, and I'm on their influencer program for that.
Yeah.
So, all of these I have affiliate links for if you want to try them as well. Yeah. And I've now found a new one called Audrey. So I joined a read along for Anne of Green Gables, which is part of Audrey. So that worked out well because it was a great way for me to get to know the app.
Yeah.
And the app is actually brilliant. So this isn't going to work very well for an audio thing, but I'm going to show you. I've got pictures on my personal Instagram you can go see. So how it's set out is you have a guide, and each chapter they give you information on things that are mentioned in the chapter. So
it's got because obviously Anne of the Green Gables is quite historic, so it shows you examples of the types of houses.
Yeah, and it shows you how Anne's room would have looked, how the kitchen would have looked, and then it also has the things that every time a character's introduced, it gives you little information on the characters.
Clever. God, they must have put so much time into that.
And they don't have a lot of books on them at the moment because they've only just released, but they're doing a lot of classics. I've also got Dracula on there.
Well, Dracula's dense,
but I've decided
probably better as an audio.
I've decided I'm going to do Dracula because it's done in diary entries, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've decided I'm going to do it on the dates.
Okay.
Which is what I saw a lot of people doing last year.
That's cool.
Because it's set between September and October, I believe. So.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah.
I read it 10 years ago.
So I'm going to do that because that's on my list of 23 books to read this year. And I was lucky enough to win a giveaway for Dracula on Audrey. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to look into some Amazon alternatives.
I've left KU now.
Yeah, I was really shocked about the price increase. That's made me. I do use it really regularly, so I'm really arguing myself whether it's worth keeping or not. I need something else that would still work on my Kindle. That's the problem, because I purchased that Kindle for that purpose. Yeah.
So because I'm lucky because I do it on just a tablet, so I can have my library app and stuff. Another one to check out is Spotify because they are.
Yeah, they're bringing in audiobooks. Yeah,
and a lot of authors are going there because Audible. Have you seen the shocking amount
I think we
they
talked
pay.
about this the other week on the podcast, but it's,
like 25% they get paid or whatever for
if
audio.
they're non-exclusive.
Yeah.
If they're exclusive, they get 40%, but that's still abysmal.
Ridiculous. And now, like, it's a lot of the KU authors have been recently screwed over.
Yeah, they've sort of done a real sweep.
Yeah.
Of some pretty big indies on there as well, not small ones.
And because, in case you don't know, if you have a book on KU, you can't have it anywhere else. But
if it gets pirated and uploaded somewhere, they still penalise the author.
Yeah. And I do feel like, I bet if it's traditionally published, they don't have that rule in place.
Are you telling me like Neil Gaiman doesn't get pirated? Like, are you kidding?
Yeah, or like he can't have his ebook elsewhere because it's on KU. I can't imagine that's true at all.
Probably negotiate different contracts with authors.
Yeah,
like that.
well, it's the same
authors
with,
like that.
like,
You can have lawyers.
Yeah, it's the same with like Audible. It's like the rules for the indie releases are different too. So yeah, that's why we like Brando Sando.
So
that's my little plug of like alternatives.
Do you want to just list the ones we're not going to go into detail about? Nah.
No, I'm fine.
All right.
Yeah, they're the ones I
That's
want
all you get to know.
have
Go
stuff
check
to
out
talk
her
about.
stuff.
They're the ones I have like opinions on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I am currently reading Crescent City, just over halfway, which, considering the size of that fucking book, the second one's worse.
Yeah.
Second one's bigger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what have I done to myself? Like, I'm enjoying it, but there's lots of world setup that maybe we could have cut out. Like, it's a very in-depth world. It's taken me a while to understand, like, because it's completely different to her other books and like the rules of like the Fae and all that. So it's taken me a while to understand it all. But like, there's been a lot of building.
Yeah,
and
it's like an urban fantasy, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's like a lot of unnecessarily like there's domestic scenes and like these things that you probably could have cut out, but it's fine. But it's a big fucking book, and I'm still currently reading A Quart of Sugar and Spice on the Kindle.
A Quart of Sugar and Spice?
Yes, that's a Rebecca F. Kennedy one.
That's a fun name.
Yeah, it's like a nutcracker.
Yeah.
Retelling.
Oh, I love it. That
Yeah.
sounds cute.
But that's my that's for when it's my Kindle book.
Yeah.
So that's for like commuting or when I'm slept next to someone who needs the lights off.
Yeah.
And then I'm not ready because my brain is just like, oh, I need to sing the song on my people for a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to read this because it's a screen that isn't backlit.
I like that. Sing the song on my people.
Oh my god, sometimes it's just like, can you be quiet? Do we need that right now? No, we don't.
Brain, do you want to shush or...
Why do you have so much to say? Today was fine.
It's all good, shut up.
And I'm also listening to the first book of Zodiac Academy, but that is like my sleeping book, so I never know how much they count.
Well,
I use audiobooks for a lot of different purposes.
It's up to you, isn't it? Because
I restart the book at the last point I remember before I fell asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
So I will like restart the book back again and again and again and again until I get to the end.
Yeah.
So I'm still listening.
Yeah, I mean, I would count it, but I know that sometimes.
I did an opinion poll on my story before, and everyone was like, "It still counts."
Yeah.
So
I think it's
maybe I should just count it.
Yeah. Just you.
Well, I'm like, what it's like to sleep to. So I'm like, how much does it count? But I did include it in my total listens last year. They were all like the sleeping listens as well as listening listens. Yeah, so that means if you include all my current ones, 7 books for the year for me, which is quite good for me, really, considering I don't know when I said to you, didn't I? I was like, I don't know when I found time for all those.
You started off so strong. I love it.
Yeah, so that's me. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, I've got like 19 ongoing. That information.
I thought me having 3 ongoing is pretty. I mean, for me, but you'll read like a chapter of something and then abandon it for 6 months. So
yeah, my pile of shame is getting epic, and my mood reading is just getting out of control. It's like
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. So like yesterday, well, there's this like 72 hour read along that started yesterday. And up until all of February, I was umming and ahhing about doing it, and I thought I shouldn't do because I do need to finish some of my books. And then I decided if I can clear some of my current reads, I will do it. But then I've been ill all of February.
Yep.
I had the flu. And so I haven't cleared anything. And then, so I wasn't going to do the read long. And then it started at 7 p.m. last night. So at 4 p.m. I was like, I'm going to do the read long. So everything just got put to the side. And I started a new book last night for the read alongs. But
you are who you are.
I'm 50% through that book. I started it last night and I'm 50%
I'm so
through.
impressed.
So
Yeah.
there we go. I'm going to be finishing that as an audio on the way home. And then so there's a wheel we spin. And then it gives you like a prompt. So then when I get home, I'll pick the next prompt.
Oh, that's
Pick up another book. So I'm potentially going to read more this weekend than I would have anyway, because I'm doing it as like I don't know. Yeah, it's just what I'm doing. It's just how I live my life.
Okay.
Yeah, I really
Find
just don't
moments
care.
of joy.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine.
Cool. Do you want to do the thing about the where to follow us and what to do?
So, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow, like, subscribe in various places. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and you can find our podcast episodes wherever you listen to podcast episodes. Please do rate us or give us a rating on wherever you listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. The more ratings we get, the happier we are. But yeah, please do that. And please share this episode with anyone else that you think might enjoy it.
If you enjoyed it, maybe pop it on your Instagram story, give us a little tag.
Yeah, please
We're trying to be like serious and professional and stuff. She says one of the babies.
Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.